All right, today, while I'm not here, we're going to work on chemical properties and chemical changes. We already saw some of that yesterday in the lab. So we did the experiment. We filled in some of the keywords here already, but I want to make sure that you get a chance to double check page 11 in your notebook before you go back and look at page 10. So here on page 11, we want to emphasize that a chemical property is the ability to change from one thing to another thing. That's what a change in composition means. So chemical properties are a little bit tricky because we can't see them while the object just sits there. It's only while it's undergoing the change into something new that we can tell that it has that chemical property. So we may not be able to tell that something is flammable or can catch on fire just by looking at it. Only when it's burning can we tell that it can burn. Same idea with combustibility. That's another way of saying things can catch on fire. Or reactivity, the ability to change into a new and different substance, like we saw with some of the steps in the lab. So, a chemical property is really just the ability to do a chemical change. That's what happens when I start with one substance, but I end with something different. I have a new composition. It might have broken some chemical bonds or made some chemical bonds. We're definitely going to talk about that a lot. It's changing from one substance or one atom, one molecule, one compound into a different one. Our three big indicators of that are a color change. So if we mix two things together and they make a color that we didn't expect, like our very first lab, two clear colorless liquids becoming yellow and cloudy. The formation of a gas or bubbling. When I just mix things, when you mix baking soda and vinegar and make that volcano, that is a chemical change. And formation of a precipitate. That is when we mix two liquids and they form a solid. The word precipitate is related to precipitation, like when it rains or when it snows, that falling down from the sky. Our solid precipitate falls, if you will, out of the liquid. But this just means a new color change we didn't expect, bubbling, or making a solid. So there are some words, and we're not really on page 9. We know that, but we talked about some action verbs yesterday. But you also want to think of other things related to chemical changes. What are words that we use to describe something turning into something else? You can pause me and write a whole bunch. I'll also have some here. Even if you already have a few, adding more is better. So words like burning, combusting, when metal rusts, it's turning into something else. So rusting would be a good one. The bubbling, getting cloudy. Those are all really good verbs that describe chemical changes. But some simpler ones that we see in our everyday life is when we are cooking things. If we are baking or frying or cooking, we are actually changing the composition of our original ingredients into the food that we end with at the end. So those are some really good ones. The key idea is that the thing we started with is really significantly different from the thing we end with. So here we're going to look at a couple slides also, or a couple videos that show this after we check some more words. So I said a whole bunch of them. Here's even some other ones as well. So you can pause here if there's any you want to write down that I didn't say. And the last thing we're going to do right here, so we filled in our words, you're going to watch these videos of the 3 key changes. The videos are linked there, so you would be able to do that or watch them right here in the video. And you're going to not only draw what it looks like, draw a picture of the change, but write down that specific thing that shows you you have done a chemical change or made something new and made something different. There's our ad. And So that's called the iodine clock reaction because of the way it changes after a certain amount of time. So that was a real reaction there, kind of showing in a lot of different ways. So, what were the signs of reaction? And draw the before and after to show that it made a new substance. So he's not talking, so I'm going to talk over him a little bit. If you went to the PowerPoint, you can see there's a couple other videos with him if you're going to check them out. But the evidence here, we saw some bubbling and the proof that there was gas. So the bubble right there, or that balloon, was proof that we made a gas. So we might see bubbling. Sometimes you can see the gas, sometimes it looks like smoke. And in that case, he caught it in a balloon, very similar to something you could do at home. Baking soda and vinegar, that's going to bubble up. But there, they did that same reaction and caught the gas in a balloon. Our last one here is a precipitate. This is similar to what we had already done in the lab, but we want to see it again from a different view. Oh, there we go. We've got all of our ads out of the way. These are the similar but not identical chemicals that we used on our day two lab. So they're going to put just a little bit in each one and we'll see how they mix. Another, if you just want to watch a lot of reactions to see lots of chemical changes, there's a website and I will link it. It's called Beautiful Reactions. I believe it's beautifulreactions.com, but it shows a lot of these reactions, kind of like this, but much, much more up close. So we're looking for the before and the after, and then the evidence that the thing we ended with is different than the thing we started with. So some things that happened there. Obviously, we had a color change, but before they were very clear, very easy to see through. And now it is a much, it's stuck on that right there, stickier or much more chunkier, cloudier solid. So we're going to stop this one right here. You can watch the rest of it from the PowerPoint, but make sure you draw the before and after and make sure that you are also describing the evidence. As you go back and do page 10, it has you compare chemical and physical properties and then chemical and physical changes. And we'll be able to check both of those next time we're in class when we mark off this page in our notebook. The last thing to point out is remember to get onto the smart book and do the chemical and physical changes and properties assignment. Get that done. It's due today, and I'll be back tomorrow.